Well, this is it this weekend. Christmas Eve and Christmas, all in the same weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And I want to get on here and share part 4 of this 4-part Christmas series that I've been doing. Just short little sharings to look at the birth of Christ and to hopefully get something new in our hearts, or just sets us for this upcoming year and seeking Him and worshiping Him and just following after and seeking Him like it's the first time, like something new. I want to share out of Matthew chapter 2 and talk about some of my favorite guys, these Wisemen. And these are familiar scriptures, so we're going to try to make our way through the first 12 verses of Matthew chapter 2. I'm just going to read the first 2 verses and talk about 2 things I see here already in just two verses. It says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, 'Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and we have come to worship him.'" This phrase, worship him, in the Greek is proskuneo, and it means to kiss, or rather, actually, to kiss like a dog licking his master's hand. Now, I don't share that with you because I'm trying to convince you that we're all dogs. But I think what I want us to grab onto is that dogs have this devotion to their masters. And when we think of the way we love and seek and specifically worship the Lord with our lives, it should be with this kind of devotion. Now think about a dog. For those of you who have a dog or dogs, or you know what I'm going to be, you're going to completely get this. Now, dogs, they find their joy in their master, right? For a dog, the sun rises and sets with the master. Our family, we have this frequent chili we make. It's called Missy's Chili. It's a recipe that's actually named after my grandfather's dog. He had a dog named Missy, and Missy loved my grandfather, and my grandfather loved this dog. And so much that we have a chili named after Missy the dog. Some of you that know us, you may remember our dog Annie. And Annie is still alive and kicking at 17 years old. But we haven't had Annie since 2016 when we moved to Lafayette. When we moved, Annie first went to our daughter Emily while she was in her last year of university. And then in 2017, she ends up with Mary Beth's parents in New Jersey, and now since 2017 she's been living a life that she never had with us. She's spoiled with home cooking for meals. She's just a pampered dog, very happy. And she's old, 17. That's old for a dog. 17-year-old bones. Her hearing's not too well. Her eyesight isn't the greatest, but I can tell you, whenever I go to mom and dad's house, and it's not as frequent as we would like, but when I get into the house, Annie in some ways starts acting like she's a puppy again. She just comes right at me, stands up on her hind legs, jumps up on me till I kneel down and give her my full attention. And I just speak these kind words, "Annie, I love you, oh Annie." And I'm stroking her and speaking kind words and giving her attention. And she finds such joy in that, right? A dog always wants to be by their master's side. The joy is found in being in the master's presence. Joy is found in the possibility of being touched by the master, just wanting to be next to him, whether it's just sitting quietly, sleeping, working, or playing. Dogs have such devotion, and it's such an example to us. And how we are to have it in our heart to desire to be like that in our devotion, in our worship to Christ. So that's the first thing I see in these first two verses, that just this overwhelming, just powerful devotion to Christ. These wise men hadn't even met him, hadn't even put their eyes on Jesus yet. And yet, in reading the prophecies and then following the star, was already something building up in them. We cannot wait to proskuneo this newborn king. Now, the other thing that comes clear is that they were making a journey. They were on a quest. And I think with God, our lives are become quest. Every day we live, just this journey we go on to seek him, to find him, to be with him, and to live for him. And, God does his part. He sends signs. He gives us hints. And I'm sure we miss the majority of those signs, but he's doing our part. And it's important for us to understand that we're the ones that have the power to choose. We're the ones who still have to make the decision. You know what? I'm going to go on this journey. Just like the wise men said, look, we've read about the star, and now we're seeing the star itself. We've got to make this quest. And it's the same for us. At some point, we have to come to this place and say, you know what? I'm going to give God the effort and put in the effort to seek after him, to find him in a real way, to seek out his presence. It's a decision we still have to make. At least it's a decision that wise people make. And let's continue reading. It says, when Herod the king heard about this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when they had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. And so they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. And it says, then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared, and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child, and when you have found him, bring back word to me, that I may come and worship him also. Now, go, because I want to worship him. He wanted to know because he wanted to kill him. I think it's important for us to understand that God really does have enemies. And when we become disciples, his enemies become our enemies. And his enemies have a specific intent on deceiving us, just like Herod was trying to deceive the wise men. The devil every day is hard at work. If he cannot prevent us from coming into a born-again relationship with Jesus Christ, then he'll do everything he can to just deceive us, to get us off the path, to get us off the journey. And I think he also will look for ways to kill the joy, to take away our desire to worship him, that proskuneo. We got to hold on to that proskuneo, that desire to be devoted to him. And it says, now when the wise men heard what King Herod had to say, they departed, and behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. And it says, when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. They rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. The action, the verb of rejoicing, which means to be cheerful, calmly happy, it led to the noun and the state of that calm happiness, that sense of well-being. They rejoice with exceedingly great joy. And I love the fact that we read in the story that they started rejoicing just in the signs, just in the acknowledgement that wow, there's a star that's going to lead us. He's meant to be found. They started rejoicing and they experienced joy even before their eyes ever had the opportunity to actually look upon Jesus, the Messiah. Now, verse 11, and when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened up their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They were obediently following the star, and it led them to his house. And when they went in, they saw the family, and then they were able to get intimate. That ultimately their focus was on him. And for us today, living in this world, I want to encourage us the importance of going to his house, being a part of a good church and getting into the family of God, because I think and being a part of a church and part of a family, encountering the family of God, it helps us to become more aware of him, to be able to focus on him. And said they opened up their treasures and they presented these gifts, and we know gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They gave gold. What an appropriate gift to the King of Kings. They presented him frankincense, is what the high priests would use in their service in the temple. Frankincense, because he was ultimately the high priest. And then they presented to him myrrh, which I think is a symbol. It reminds us of the sacrifice he would ultimately make on the cross for us in his great love. Now, last verse 12. Then being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country another way. These guys were being obedient. And I think these verses show us that obedience in some way, obedience shields us. It's the antidote to being deceived, right? I mean, maybe they were thinking before these angels appeared, maybe they were thinking, okay, we found Jesus, now we got to go back and tell Herod where he is. But they were being obedient, and they had just worshiped, they had encountered Christ, and they get sent this angel to warn them. And so I just encourage us, let's walk obediently in this coming year, and in a way understand that it is a shield to deception, against deception. And it says they went back, they departed to their own country another way. They ultimately returned back, not just to their own country, but I think what we can pull out of this is they went back to their regular lives. But ultimately, they were different. These wise men put in such a great effort to find Jesus, and it changed them forever. And I'm sure when they returned to their home country, they returned different than who they were before they left. And I'm sure they were witnesses for the Christ, that he had indeed come and that things had changed. Amen. Be blessed this Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful one and you remember him in all your celebrations, and just love your family with all your heart and be grateful for the people you have, more so than anything you receive. Lifted Hands sends its love and its blessings to all of you. Amen.